I've often said that Alberta has one of the most innovative economies in North America. It's a chronically undertold story in Canadian media. It needs more attention. And the Alberta Innovates is the agency in Alberta that's intended to stimulate innovation and invention. And it has come up with a new strategy for creating business accelerators. We're going to talk to Laura Kilcrease, who is the CEO of Alberta Innovates, about that announcement. So welcome to the interview, Laura.
Thank you, Markham. Glad to be here today.
Why don't we start, Laura, with if you could give us an overview of today's announcement, please.
Yeah, so today we announced an RFP, request for proposal, and we did denote $25 million on that RFP for accelerators. And one would say, why? And these are particular accelerators in that we're looking for the best, both local and global models, where we can fill what we call as the missing middle. We have lots of great startups here in the province and in Canada, and those startups do, over time incredibly well. But when the missing middle is the companies that start and can scale to 100 million in revenue in a fairly short period of time. And we find that scaling and growth activity is not necessarily a natural act for every single startup. So what we want to do is augment that process to get most of those scale-ups and grow-ups, if I could call it, very quickly. Why? Very simply, they're the companies that create 60% of new growth, new jobs, and are the highest wealth generators in this country. And if we're to compete against any other innovation and technology center around the world, we need those kind of people and those kind of companies here. And so while we've done very well in the startup phase, and we're going to do even better, we feel that this middle section needs to move forward.
Now, let's talk about this in practical terms, Laura, because I've seen this firsthand where, so let's say engineers, or maybe they're scientists, and they have a terrific new technology. It's in its infancy stage. It needs to go through the process of coming out of the lab and into demonstration, and then into pilot, and then into commercial, and then into scale up. And there are all sorts of things like marketing plans and capital and intellectual property issues that those entrepreneurs are not well situated. They just don't have the skill set and the experience to do it. And it seems to me, if I understand this correctly, an accelerator brings all of those other things to the table so that they get to where they need to scale up much more quickly. Am I understanding this correctly?
Absolutely. I would say I'd add one other thing to the list that you said, and that is connectivity into the rest of the world, the global market, of where when they start to scale, they have access to customer bases and connections. That does not mean that we bring the customer base to them. It means that we open the connectivity and the channels to get to that customer base. So absolutely. And when we think of customers, Markham, they need to be around the world, not just their next door neighbor or someone else in Canada. They need to be in global markets. And that's the big companies that are going to scale are going to end up being in global markets fairly quickly.
Now, I'd like your response to this, Laura. My impression is that over the last year in particular, the energy transition has really accelerated, and a lot of it has to do with the tremendous amount of capital globally that's flooding into clean energy and clean technologies. Investors are, they want to get in on this new boom, this technology and energy boom. And what that does is it creates customers. There's a lot of demand for expertise, for specialty software and other technologies. And Alberta, being an energy economy, has so many of those skills and technologies and experts and so on. Am I got that right?
Yeah, I actually believe you are correct. The thing is, though, those levels of expertise, those competencies need to be connected to the people that need them, right? And that is a mismatch sometimes. Sometimes they're speaking different languages. I'll use a silly example. if we're going to apply artificial intelligence into the oil and gas sector today for betterment of results, for control of machinery, for whatever it may be, someone who talks bits and bytes in the terms of artificial intelligence or Python code or something else is not the same kind of person who's running that piece of equipment in the oil and gas industry. They talk a different language. We have to find ways to bring these parties together and apply the new innovations and the new technologies to that space. So common language, common space, common introductions, elements of trust are going to be very important.
Now, last question, Laura, I see in your press release, you've got different kinds of accelerators, pre-accelerators, sector-based accelerators, sector-agnostic accelerators. Could you explain those for us, please?
Yeah, so the pre-acceleration is for those more earlier stage ideas and companies that aren't quite yet on that scale up, but may have that capability to be on that scale up path. Specific areas are where we're now looking at industry. Because every industry has its own language, its own connections, its own supply chains, we're looking at specific scale-ups around particular industries. Maybe we've not specified the industry. It could be oil and gas, it could be energy, it could be ag, it could be anything. And then we have some more generic where you have the programs, the skills, but not just for that one energy. One sector. So I think what we're trying to do is say, what's the best to fill the gaps, whether it's specific or general, whether it's earlier stage or later stage, that can bring all those earlier attributes together that we think we need here. And at the end of the day, Markham, if out of this we get one new company that becomes the equivalent in its industry of a Benevity or Shopify, another great success in Canada, you only need one of these that will pay back everything that we're investing in this program. Obviously, we hope to get more than one. We hope to start a trend of Canadians going out to own their market overseas, own their growth, and not have that intellectual property or that company disappear across the borders from us.
Now, maybe we should wrap this up, Laura, with there is an RFP process that you've launched today, and April 30th is the deadline. Could you tell us how that works and anybody who might be interested in it?
Anyone who's interested can go to the Alberta Innovates site. They can get the link to the RFP. They just have to register that they're interested. The RFP will be sent to them and then give us their response by April 30th. After that, we'll go forward, do due diligence, and our intention is by the end of the summer, we will have chosen one or more, and it may be several programs, and have them up and running, we hope, by early fall, so that they can actually be successful within this calendar year and get going. We are not sitting back, and we're ready to go. We've spent the last year doing our research, so those interested, please go to the Alberta Innovates website, download the RFP, and let us know how special you are.
Great. Laura, thank you very much for this. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.